What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one will break down what's going on with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm going to talk about the big data that's going to be dropping about 30 minutes after the market opens to cause some volatility, and also what's going on with the earnings that just came out for this morning and what will be coming out later on today. But before breaking anything down on what the technicals are suggesting, some very important levels to watch for and what's going on with the markets, let me just mention a couple of things before starting. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just 8 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at SPY, this thing's up about 0.07% in the pre-market, holding up so far, but the question is, how on earth will the market continue to move? And this is going to be determined by some data that's going to be dropping a little bit later on today, and also the earnings, so far the reaction to them. So far the market's trying to hold up, but the question will be what will happen later on. But to start off, we have some data dropping at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time or New York time today. If you're on the West Coast, it's going to be 7 o'clock a.m. And for everyone, it's going to be 30 minutes after the market opens. And it's going to be the consumer confidence report that's coming out. This is likely going to be positive for the market because right now consumers are looking very optimistic, expecting inflation to continue to cool down. However, we also have the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index, the Fed Manufacturing Shipments, and the Fed Services Index all coming out as well. And we're going to find out what happens with this data. It's going to be very important, so make sure you're ready for this. And this is going to give us more insights on how the manufacturing side is looking for the economy. Now, I'm very open-minded to anything just to be safe, but I am quite confident the consumer confidence report will be quite good. But we will see what happens at 10 o'clock a.m. to cause more volatility. Now, as far as earnings go, just as a reminder, today we had Verizon, GM, 3M, and a couple of others like Spotify already come out before the market opened. However, later on, when the market closes, or a little bit after that, we have Microsoft, we have Google, aka Alphabet, and then we have Snap and Visa and just a couple of others. Microsoft and Google are going to be the two big ones for the day, and it's going to cause a very big move in the markets after the market closes and also going into Wednesday. So make sure you're ready for this. Expect some big volatility, and it's going to be pretty crazy. But let's now talk about how Verizon and all these others are doing so far. Looking at it right now, the market is quite unchanged despite the fact that they just reported their earnings. And overall, the market is still holding up quite decently. You could see the Dow is on once again a very, very big win streak. It's the biggest win streak since February of 2017. The Nasdaq 100 futures is up about 0.41%. And so far, GM and just a couple of others are up as well. The market's holding up quite decently. And there's some important things to know, and that is like we have all these big pieces of news coming out involving earnings. We also have Citi downgrading Goldman Sachs for their price targets. That was a little bit new. But besides that, there's nothing else that's too crazy. We did see Walmart get an upgrade from Piper Sandler. But as far as earnings go, just very quickly before I start talking about the charts, 3M is actually up about 2%, beating on revenue. A couple of others like XROX, they're basically what is this? They're up about 3.6%, and I do apologize if I said that wrong. GE is once again up about 4%. A couple of others are up. We also had some down, like Spotify down 6.1%. Once again, the list goes on. So very mixed earnings, but for the most part, quite good. Even Verizon's up. They have pretty strong guidance. They're reaffirming strong guidance, which is good. Even Walmart is up as well after getting some big upgrades. So the majority of stocks have actually been up, but a couple of them have been down. Mixed overall, but more good than bad for earnings. Now let's break down the charts, what's going on with all these different tickers, all right? So looking at SPY, this thing is currently up about 0.08%, holding up around the mid 454 area. If you're bullish on the market, you want to see this thing hold above 455. If it manages to do so, if we manage to break this high up here, the next really important resistance is not going to be significant until like 456. So we could even get a push all the way up there if we manage to break above 455.19, or that's the high of the pre-market. Now, if we break down, you're going to be watching 454.09. If 454 flat around that area basically fails us, there's going to be 453.5, followed by 452.69 as the next major support after that. But looking at it, we basically are gapping up just a little bit, and there is a chance the market may cool off just a little bit going into like the open, just like how it did yesterday, like popped and came right back down. So expect volatility in the very beginning. Then expect a very big reaction to this data at 10 o'clock a.m. So I'm going to be seeing some crazy price action for the first like 30 minutes. And then we're going to see the market stabilize, probably just hold up and trade sideways as we approach the big anticipated earnings. And then I think the real big move is going to come in the after hours once we see these big earnings, especially going into tomorrow. So we might see some sideways price action later on today, just being stuck between these ranges around the 454 area. I could see the market just cooling off a tiny bit, but just trading sideways for the most part. And I expect high volatility for the first 30 minutes. Same thing with the IWM or the Russell 2000. It was basically stuck in its range yesterday, and today it's still stuck in the range, holding above 194 and being stuck below around this like 195.5 area. I think it's just going to trade sideways as well. It's a little bit red in the pre-market. Going to be looking for a balance around this 193.99 area. And then once again, continue to trade sideways. Looking at Tesla, this is holding up quite nicely. It's already gapping up, and now Tesla's trying to make its way up to about 272. Now there is this gap down here. I think Tesla could see a small drop down to like 270 today, but then it's going to bounce again. And we're going to be watching if Tesla could try to get above 275. If it manages to do so, we have this imbalance up here, which would take Tesla up closer to about 280. It's all the way like right about here. And I think there's a good chance Tesla will try to make its way up to about 280 if we could get a big break above 275. Well, there's 278, then like 280 around that area. Basically, the very high 270s, very close to 280. If it gets above 275, right? The pre-market high was 274. We got to break that first. And if we do so, there's 275, then it breaks the upside. There's also this unfilled gap down here on this 270 area. So we might see Tesla cool off a little bit. By the time we open, maybe very close to open, we just hit like 270, then we get a nice bounce after that. We hold up and trade sideways, then we eventually see Tesla try to push to the upside. Neo, excuse me, guys. Neo, of all things, is once again up about 4.48% as of right now. This thing is continuing to climb very nicely. I'm going to call this out because Neo has a very nice setup right now. When you zoom out of the chart, you can see there's this large accumulation that's been forming on it. And I do think Neo has a lot of potential to push up higher if they give us some strong deliveries. I could see this thing going all the way up to like $15 or higher than that. And if guidance is very strong after earnings and they keep on killing it with deliveries, I'm going to see Neo making its way all the way up to above $20 if we keep getting strong deliveries. It is possible. This thing was at 7 just about a month and a half ago. Now it's at $12. It could keep going, but we're going to be watching deliveries first, which is going to be coming out in about a week. Apple is looking pretty flat right now. It's a little bit up in the pre-market, hitting this 193.5 area. Break above this, and we're going to be watching this 194 zone. If it gets above this 194.75 area to 195, I'm going to be watching for a push for 196.36 or around that area. If it breaks below 192, okay, you're going to be watching 191.32. If that fails us, then the next level is going to be 190. Right now, it's about to get a bullish cross in the 4-hour time frame, so it's showing some strength. There could also be this inverse head and shoulders like structure, which could push Apple higher, which would help the market pump a bit. But just to be safe, let's see if Apple could try to get above 194 first to get that push all the way up to like 195. That's going to be our resistance. 194 is going to be one resistance zone to watch for. And for support, watch the 192 area around that area. So watch those levels very carefully, this entire range. My gut tells me it's looking a little bit more bullish as we're about to get a bullish cross in the 4-hour. We might see a pop near open, but we're going to see what happens with the reaction to all this data. Don't forget about that for Apple. And then last but not least, for the QQQ, before I talk about like Nvda and just a few others, this is also trying to get a bullish cross on the PPO, but there's this unfilled gap. I think it's like very close to it. We might see the QQQ drop a little bit to about 376 and try to bounce. There's a possible inverse head and shoulder structure that could be developing. There is a possibility it pushes a little bit higher. It's about 378 or so. And if it manages to break that, I could be watching 380, but I'm not super bullish on the triple Q. It's not looking like insanely strong compared to like other tickers, other ETFs, other index funds. But like I said before, it could still get a balance, and we could see this thing try to make its way up to about 380. It's a possibility, but watch for a hold above 378 first before it gets there. It may pop near open and cool off as the day goes on to just like trade sideways. I'm going to be watching for that basically. For Nvda, we're about to get a bullish cross on the PPO. We got a nice accumulation structure right here, a 440 bounce. I'm going to be watching this imbalance. I saw an imbalance around here, around this like 458 area, or this like other important zone. Now there's this gap down here. If Nvidia does break below, hypothetically below like 448, we're going to be watching for a gap fill to like 446 point something. So it may cool off a little bit in the morning, then trying to get a bounce afterwards. But even if that were to be the case, as long as it holds above 440, it has an inverse head and shoulder structure, maybe a small drop to a nice bounce, then we have this imbalance up here around this 458 area. It looks more bullish than bearish in my opinion. Maybe it cools off just a tiny bit more than gets a nice bounce. I could be seeing this thing get very close to 460 very soon. Very, very nice looking structure on the video. For Microsoft, I'm expecting this thing to start pushing above 350, maybe making its way up to about, if it breaks 355, we could see this thing go all the way to like 358 approaching earnings. It may start pumping approaching earnings, so be on the lookout for Microsoft. And besides that, Meta is starting to bounce. I called this out yesterday and may bounce off either 287 or 290. It's currently at 295 trying to push up. It is going to gap up a bit, so watch for it to eventually cool off and retest like 292 or so, then bounce after that. And if it keeps going, you're going to be watching this thing pump approaching earnings for 305 or so. We have this imbalance up here. Going to try to make its way up to about 305. So far, looking quite nice. All right, guys, so that's what I have for this video. I hope this was helpful. Please watch all these levels carefully. The market's holding up quite decently, but expect some volatility in the morning. We might see the market drop, of course, like I said before, drop and then pump right back up for the first 30 minutes because of all this data dropping. Then I expect some sideways price action on like the ETFs and like index funds, like a little bit before we start to see a very big move as we approach Microsoft's earnings and then going into tomorrow. All right. So that's what I'm seeing for the markets. Thank you all for listening. Have a good one. Have fun trading, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and peace out.